welcome back guys. We are doing the turn recap for turn 7 and the options for turn 8. Now what an interesting turn this was, that's for sure. I don't know if one of the sides is going to be able to recover, so watch and find out what happened. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe. Also go and check us out on Facebook so you can always be kept updated on when new videos are coming out, and you can also share what you're working on. So for the campaign, we're using my own rule set. It's called Beggars and Scoundrels. You can go and purchase it on my Ko-fi channel. The link is in the description. So, for those of you that aren't aware where the 1814 campaign is set, it's set in France itself. So what exactly occurred this turn? In the sort of centre, we had Napoleon's forces converging on Nogent, where he crossed the river and was attacking them from the east, whilst the Guard troops who had escaped last turn attacked from the north. Whilst down in the southeast we had Marshal Ney, who went on the offensive against the Russians and Prussians combined. Marshal Blucher and his allies made a march to try and cut Ney off, but due to the bad weather they were unsuccessful in being able to do much apart from just general manoeuvring. So that led us to 2 battles for this turn. So the first, the big battle. Napoleon arrives at Nogent. So it's more or less the same battlefield as before, although we've just sort of shifted it over slightly to allow room for Napoleon's troops to be coming on from this edge. So we've got Napoleon and the 4th Corps, I think. Anyway, Napoleon's forces on the left, we've got the Guard in the centre there, and then for the Allies we've got Schwarzenberg's corps, and then we've got 2 smaller corps of Austrians as well. All of the Austrians and all of the French begin on the table. But yeah, as you can see, the map is more or less the same as last time. The Austrians took up quite a strong defensive position in the town, using their cavalry to protect their flank. And as you can see, you've got the Guard coming on from the north and Napoleon coming on from the east. The objective is pretty simple for the Austrians. They've just got to hold out and try and blunt Napoleon, and Napoleon's forces really want to kick them out of the town and inflict as much damage as possible. So at the end of turn 1, all of the French forces had deployed and were advancing, French cavalry sweeping round to their left. The Austrians just realigned their cavalry but didn't do any movement themselves, and MacDonald with the Guard and the reinforcements from the previous turn just kept coming down the road. During the shooting phase, all of the artillery from the French side concentrated on the Austrian artillery, inflicting some damage, but nothing extraordinary, and both of the Austrian guns concentrated their fire on the light infantry. So at the end of turn 2, the French continued their advance on all fronts. We had the first exchange of musket fire, and the first casualty removed for the game was the 2nd Austrian artillery piece, which took small arms fire and 2 artillery blasts this turn, and 2 from last turn, which was enough to knock them out. Schwarzenberg himself was also suffering 1 wound this turn. He's still alive, but he took a bit of a pounding. So at the end of turn 3, we had a bit of a change round. The French light infantry that were advancing on the bridge were cut down in their advance. As I said, the Austrian artillery piece was gone from last turn. In revenge, this turn, the Austrian infantry and artillery took out the 2nd Light Infantry Regiment of the French on this side. So, a few casualties on both sides, just to balance things out. And on this side of the map, the cavalry are staring each other down. So at the end of turn 4, the 2nd artillery piece for the Allies has broken. They're still holding a pretty good defensive position in the town. The French are advancing on the 2 fronts, and this turn we had the cavalry engagement where it's kind of equal. You had carabiniers and chasseurs for the French versus cuirassiers and lancers for the Allies. And as you would imagine, the heavy cavalry just completely overwhelmed the light cavalry. The chasseurs were completely ridden down, but then the cuirassiers themselves, having suffered a lot of casualties, did actually break afterwards, so they're routed. The Carabiniers just beat the Lancers, and so the Lancers broke, and the Carabiniers were able to regain control, so didn't charge after them at this stage. So at the end of turn 5, there were a few changes. The Lancers did rally after having run for a couple of turns. The Cuirassiers are still broken, with the Carabiniers now turned around to meet them. The French infantry brigades are starting to come upon the Allies. In the exchange of fire, though, one of the corps commanders for the Austrians was shot down. On the other side, heavy exchange of fire led to one of the French brigades giving way. Luckily, none of the others followed suit. So at the end of turn 6, there was a bit of a change or reversal of fortunes. The cuirassiers for the Allies, having failed to rally for 3 turns, are gone. The Lancers had rallied last turn, and so they're just holding in position. The artillery has rallied, which is good for them. Whilst the French were attacking on this flank, one of their brigades has been forced to withdraw. And on this side, the French failed to rally one of their brigades from last turn, so it's a bit of a stalemate at the moment until the French can regain the momentum. So turn 8 has come to an end. The Austrians decided they were going to launch counter-attack, which started to go very nicely until the commander leading it got shot, and then with his death 2 of the brigades broke, leaving the whole counter-attack in tatters. Luckily, the damage that had been done due to musketry and artillery fire also broke 2 of the French brigades, so the French aren't in a position to countercharge at this point. So at the end of turn 9, the Austrian attack completely fell apart. The Lancers charged and got destroyed, so the whole attack, which looked like it had great success opportunity, seeing as most of the French had routed at that point, just fell apart. So the Austrians are trying to rally. However, the French are now reorganising and just sitting back and bombarding the town, so it's not a good spot for the Austrians. So to be honest with you guys, we were both pretty exhausted at the end of the battle, the way it had just gone backwards and forwards. We would say it was, on balance, a victory for the Allies because the French didn't hold the town. But by the end of the battle, the French just stopped their attacks and were just bombarding with their artillery superiority, which forced the Austrians to have to withdraw anyway. So it was kind of a draw, no really defined victors. In the second battle, though, Ney's forces were soundly defeated. We actually thought that he'd been killed, but then we realised that we'd rolled the wrong dice. So then we found out that actually he's down to just 1 sort of health point left, so he is critically injured, so not good for Ney. It wasn't a good turn at all for the French. So, turn 8, Allied options. The weather is clear, so what are they going to do to secure victory? So, in the east, we've got all forces converge, surround and destroy Ney. Option 2 is for the reinforcements that we had just to move into a central position. Blucher and the sort of central allies there to finish off Ney, and the Prussian reserves from last turn to head south. Option 3 is for Blucher's forces to finish off Ney, the northern troops to head into the centre, and everyone else to move south to try and take out the reserve corps. Option 4 is for a bit of a mix, so we've got Blucher and the sort of more central southern forces to take out Ney. We've got the Prussian reserves who are going to head north and link up with the new Prussian corps, and they're going to head into the centre to try and capture some strategic territory. In the west, option 1 is for Schwarzenberg's forces to just keep heading on Paris and try and blunt and destroy any French that get in the way. Option 2 is for them to try and withdraw back to try and keep their supply lines open and then link up with their own forces. And option 3 is to head south and try and cross the river a bit further south or draw off that reserve corps. Bit of a wild card option, but it could come in useful. Now for the French options. Okay, the first one is for Ney to try and, as fast as possible, get out of there and link up with Napoleon somewhere in the centre. Option 2 is just go for it, try and attack again and see if we can break free of those allies. And option 3 is just to hold where he is. It's quite a good strong town on a river, so that's going to make sort of mitigate the advantage that Blucher has in troops and see if they can hold out. Western option 1 is all forces converge in and around Nogent to try and take out the Austrians under Schwarzenberg. Option 2 is 3 of the corps of the group, go after Schwarzenberg whilst Napoleon heads to try and link up with Ney. Third is for the Guard and the reinforcements to go after Schwarzenberg, Napoleon to go and link up with Ney, and the reserves to head across and try and take the crossing at Troyes. And then the final option 4 is for the reserves and the reinforcements to go after Schwarzenberg, and everyone else to take a more central position, ready to try and repel any future moves by the Allies. So let me know down below what you thought about the events of the last turn and also these options. Let me know what you think is the best strategy for both sides going forwards. As I said earlier, the French are in a really bad spot, so I think whatever is decided for this next turn is going to make or break the campaign, one way or another. But as I said last time, if you're enjoying the campaign, if you want to get your hands on it, head over to the coffee channel where you can pick up the rules which come with the campaign itself. Then you can fight it out either as we play along or just on yourself to see how you do separately. But anyway, till next time guys, I hope you take care.